We're talking about ankle monitoring before and juvenile crime, and going back to, again, you said what birthday was it for the MCC?
71 years old.
71 years
Yeah.
old. I would think that the nature of juvenile crime has changed greatly as well, because I don't think at that time there was a level of violent juvenile crime that there is now.
No, it wasn't. It was very, very different times. And what we're seeing right now is that, a lot of juveniles, which under the current definition is 17 or less, are using firepower that we've never seen before in the city of New Orleans. And many of those juveniles are involved in many of the crimes of violence that we're experiencing right now. So juvenile crime is a very different looks very different today than it did even 15, 20 years ago. And it's a challenge under perfect circumstances, and these are imperfect circumstances in large part because of the diminished resources that are available to the police department. We're at the lowest staffing level that we've had probably in the past 75 plus years.
I don't know if you heard any of the show earlier, but we were talking about a WDSU TV6 story with Judge Derensberg about phones and ankle monitoring for juveniles, and I guess it goes back to the secrecy under which juvenile court happens. Is there any way to? I know there's been a movement afoot in the legislature, but are we making any substantial gains in terms of tracking violent juvenile offenders to make sure that they're staying out of trouble?
So the system that's in place right now for juvenile offenders, I didn't see the Channel 6 piece, but the system that's in place right now isn't a system that was selected by the juvenile judges of the juvenile court. It's a system that was selected by the city of New Orleans and given to the juvenile court. And the city of New Orleans selected the method and the technology that was going to be used, and they're paying for it, and they're giving each judge, I'm told, 5 offenders that they can place on a monitoring device. And as far as I'm aware of, the real value of electronic monitoring is threefold. Everybody that's released on pretrial, whether you're an adult or a juvenile, the paramount concern is you not commit another crime while you're out on pretrial release. And juvenile court isn't using that component of it. The second most important thing is to allow the judge to construct individualized plans for everybody on pretrial release. Whether you're an adult or a juvenile, that system can be used to make sure if the judge thinks it's important you get treatment, go to school, stay away from victims and witnesses. That system can ensure that the individual is complying with those conditions of release. So if the offender is not committing a crime and is doing what the judge told them to do, and electronic monitoring is verification of those two things, you don't have to worry about the third component of it, which is ensuring that the offender comes to court for their case. Because if you take care of number one and you take care of number two, number three is going to be an automatic. They will appear in court. And juvenile court isn't utilizing the full capabilities of the electronic monitoring system, but it's not really the juvenile court's fault. This is a plan and a process that was selected by the city of New Orleans.
So this is something procedurally the council could address if they wanted to?
Sure, they could
or the
make
mayor.
it be an issue and talk about it. Absolutely. So, I heard a little bit of Matt on your show, Matt Dennis, and, he's talking about a $6 fee, which is not only is he providing the equipment, but most importantly, what his service is providing is the accountability and the enforcement and providing real-time data to the court and to the police department to determine if anyone wearing a monitor was at the scene of a crime when a crime was committed, and giving the judges daily, if needed, updates on offenders that are non-compliant with the conditions of release. So that's not what's happening from what I appreciate with the juvenile electronic monitoring program, but it is happening in adult court with respect to the adult pretrial release population that are placed on monitors.
So I think what drives everybody crazy, including me, is we have a system that does work, it can work. Juveniles are a problem when it comes to violent crime. Like you're talking about parts 1, 2, and 3. Well, why in the world wouldn't we adopt this? Where is the holdup? And
well, I can't. You're asking a very logical question, and I can't provide a logical response. It's just a matter of we need to take a look at what's a priority, and if we're going to use electronic monitoring, don't use a portion of it. Use it to its fullest capability. And the system that's in place right now for juvenile offenders is not utilizing it to its fullest capabilities.
I think 2 more women were murdered in the last 24 hours. I know one in Algiers and the other one I can't find right now, but I thought sure there was, or at least in the last 48 hours. Is this just coincidental, Raphael, with women being murdered, or is it something that spikes occasionally, or is there any way to know?
Well, again, so you're asking what the motive of the homicide was. And last week we began to